Welcome to Latino Talk TV. We're here at the Houston Media Source in Houston's East End, and we have three special guests with us today. First, we have Cassandra Rivera, our Tiger Woods of Latina community, and Mr. Tony Diaz, El Libro Traficante, and of course, our one and only Javier Perez. Today's show is going to be about golfing and Senate Bill 1128, a Dan Patrick bill. So we're going to have a lot of lively discussions. Is that right, Tony?
Exactly.
Okay. But first, let's talk to Ms. Cassandra. Cassandra is a golfer at the Texas Southern University, ranked 6th in the nation in Division I.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? Yeah.
Are you 5? Are you number 5?
I'm number 5? No, I wish I was. I don't even know how to play golf, but that's okay.
And I could testify to that. The man's terrible. I'm bad. He's terrible.
But let's talk about your history. I know you're from the Valley, from Donna, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
Now, how in the world does someone from Donna, Texas become the #1 Latina in the nation in golf in Division I?
So my dad introduced me to golf when I was about 4 years old. My uncle introduced the game to him, and I guess he thought it would be a fun pastime for myself and my older brother to, get into. And so at first, I really didn't like it at all. I mean, it was hot outside. It was hot outside, and if you're
the valley weather.
Yeah, it's valley weather.
4 hours.
Yeah, valley weather. It's hot. It's windy. He's getting mad at me because I'm too slow. So I didn't really like it at first. But I guess after 8th grade, I played competitively, like in middle school, because my dad wanted me to. And 8th grade, I won a tournament, and I beat the girl who always won, and they accused me of cheating, and so after that I was just like, you know what?
Wait a minute, you're cheating?
How do you cheat? I don't even know how to cheat at golf. I can't play golf or cheat.
Yeah,
she had a big eraser.
It was at Mid-Valley Golf Course in Mercedes.
Was there another Latina you were playing against?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, everyone there is basically
okay.
Latina.
Wow.
It's a valley.
Of course, that was no question. Okay.
So, yeah, they just gave a big speech about integrity and how we need to uphold ourselves as golfers and all this stuff, and I was just like, okay, well. So after that, I just went practice, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna come back and not be good. And so I came back the next tournament. They were following me, making sure I didn't cheat. And I mean, I won again, so.
Yes.
And by the way, she has brains and she has beauty, and of course, she's a great golfer. She's a biology major, a minor in chemistry. I mean, there's not too many people that do chemistry. Chemistry is tough.
Usually, someone playing golf is usually taking, taking some kind of PE courses
Business.
or something, major in something.
You're gonna get letters now. People are gonna call you.
So, what's your GPA?
Back in my day.
That's right.
That's how it was.
What's your GPA?
My GPA right now kind of dropped to 3.89, but I.
You get a mulligan. You get a mulligan in class. So
yeah.
Wow.
But
3.89, not bad, huh, Tony?
Not bad at
Tony
all.
teaches, by the way.
Oh, really?
Not bad at all. So
What
He teaches
subject?
English.
everybody loves English, grammar, cool stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
my favorite teacher is an English teacher, Mr. Gonzalez.
All
from high school.
right.
So we call him Profe. No, that's great. So I'm looking here, you're a sophomore. And so obviously you've been at TSU for 2 years playing golf.
Yes, and academically a junior.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you play other Texas teams. So is it like Texas A&M? Is it UT? I mean, who do you play against?
So when we play tournaments, we stay within the SWAC conference,
Okay.
which stands for Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Okay.
But there have been other tournaments where we play against like Sam Houston,
Okay.
St. Edwards.
Which of them is the best? I know your school's the best one, but it would be like second best
Like in the country or what
that
do
you
mean?
play against. No, the worst. Who's the worst one out of all?
We won't get into the worst.
Come on now.
Where's your main competition coming from? Who's when you're out playing?
In my conference,
Yeah.
she would probably be a golfer from Prairie View, A&M, in Prairie View, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a.
So where does Texas and A&M and U of H, where do they all end up?
So in Division I, there's different conferences within Division I, and everyone kind of stays within their conference unless they invite your school.
Mm-hmm.
So
They're scared of you. They're scared of it.
Yeah, so I haven't actually played against any UT golfers, but in the rankings they go by averages. So how you average on the course is how they rank you.
Are we calling them out right now? Let's call them out. Call out UT.
You're scared, UT. You're scared.
She's calling UT out right now.
You don't want to know this, Latina.
Golfy showdown. Latina power.
And you know, ironically, I was supposed to play golf today, but I had to cancel. I know what you're going to say. I can't play golf anyway.
The golf course thanks you for not showing up. We're canceled.
But I was going to play with the Easton Chamber of Commerce. They had a golf tournament fundraiser today, and unfortunately I couldn't do it today. So I was going to show off my talents today. You know, I can hit those trees pretty good. I want you to know that.
I've seen you throw your clubs a few times. Yeah, the club goes farther than the ball.
So if we were to bring some folks out that wanted to learn how to golf, could you come out and do a clinic?
I'm not too sure if that would be
you have
within.
to follow the guidelines.
NCAA rules.
Okay.
But during.
I get it. That means you're like a professional then, probably. So it would complicate
if you receive money, that would be considered, being a pro.
So we have to get a permission from TSU. Should we call TSU right now?
Yeah, we gotta call
Get the president on the line.
So
Yeah.
how did you end up at TSU?
So I played a golf tournament my junior year in high school for the Legends Junior Golf Tour, and it's like one of the biggest tournaments I played because my family's low income. We couldn't afford big tournaments, and a lot of college coaches were there. And my college coach, Coach Hank Stewart, was there. And after the tournament, he came up and he was like, "I'm willing to offer you a full ride if you play for my university."
Wow.
And so,
That's
I
cool.
mean, if I wasn't going to get a scholarship for golf, I would probably be at my community college just because I can't afford it. So
I want to remind the viewers out there that there's going to be a phone number on the bottom of your screen, and you can call in and ask any questions you'd like. So
Can we call in a question?
You want to
Or
you want to
can I
call
ask-
in?
Can I ask you? I mean, it's cool if I call, probably, but you mentioned the cost. So what are some of the costs? Because I guess if you have a tournament, you have to fly there on your own and whatnot before you get into a school program.
for junior golf,
Because you mentioned that there were certain tournaments you couldn't compete in because of the cost.
yeah. So I played in a tour. It was a great tour. South Texas Professional Golf Association, SCPGA, and it's actually based out of here in Houston. And that's the one I kind of competed in just because it was a lot cheaper. I think it was about $100 just to be a member, and then it was about $50 to about $75 a tournament. And all of the tournaments that we had were, they go by region. So the Valley was one region, and then there was like Beaumont, College Station, Houston, San Antonio, things like that, South Texas. And there was also, there's other tours like AJGA and Texas Junior Golf, and then there's Legends. AJGA is probably the most expensive, but it's also the most looked at by colleges. If you're playing in
What does AJGA stand for?
I'm not too sure just because I wasn't on that tour, but I know a lot of big names have come out of that. I don't know if you know Jordan Spieth. I believe he played in AJGA.
I think that's the American Junior
So-
Golf Association.
I noticed.
Is that not right?
I noticed
Maybe.
today Tiger Woods won his tournament today,
Yeah.
and he's the #1 ranked golfer
In the world.
in the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, who are some of your idols, if you will, in the golf industry?
Tiger Woods is probably my biggest idol.
Okay.
I admire the way he plays the game. I'm just amazed.
So it's not Javier Perez?
Yeah, right.
Sorry, bro.
Right. I could carry her clubs if she gets me help.
Actually, you can't. You can't.
I'm talking about from the parking lot to
Maybe
the
2 holes.
from the
That's
parking
about
lot to the
it.
tee box. That's about it.
Where do I sign up to be your agent?
My agent. Let me finish.
NCAA
college
might be listening. Okay, there, Ben. Let's please.
I'll tell you what, anytime you have a Latina that's a sophomore in college, #1, I mean, that says a lot about your work ethic, your coaches, everybody, your support system, your family. Obviously, your dad was a big influence on you.
huge influence.
Yeah, and did your dad actually play golf elsewhere, or what? Was it for fun, or how was it he involved in the golf industry?
He just played it for fun. I mean, he shoots like 100s, 90s, 80s on a really good day.
What does that mean?
But
that means he's better than most duffers. He's a lot better than me.
But so I thought that was pretty good, but to you, that's like.
Well, let me backtrack. It's not on a 100-point scale. It's not like teaching.
That's an A. Isn't that an A?
No, the higher it goes. Like I've done like 120 before, so.
I used to shoot that too, though. I mean, like.
What do you shoot now?
Now, my average for the fall semester was 71.63, I believe.
Wow.
71.63.
Yeah.
That's below
by the way,
par,
that's
yeah,
good.
That's below
one-
par.
Yeah, I was
one
about to
below par.
Google that. She knows more about science than I do. She knows more about golf than I do. This is cool. This is good.
Par's about 72, so she's shooting under par, and
Yeah.
that is fantastic for an athlete. I mean, for an athlete her age.
See, he knows more
It's
about
great.
golf than we do,
It's
Tony.
great.
He
I used to- I
you
used to
Google
sell-
faster.
I used to sell golf clubs. I
They
knew,
can't
I
see
know
the
that,
phone
I knew
from
that
behind
years
you
ago.
like
Years
this,
ago.
So don't put on airs.
So let me ask you this. So you're a biology major. You want to be, I guess, a minor in chemistry. So is that going into the medical field, or what do you want to do with that?
So when I first came into TSU, I was wanting to do research, medical research, but I've actually changed my mind, and I'm trying to pursue a career in endocrinology. I want to go into med school and become an endocrinologist.
Explain what that means.
Now, that's diabetes research.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it deals with
I knew that.
it deals with hormone
You've been
secretions.
reading the notes, haven't you?
Yeah. So it deals with hormone secretions, and one of the main diseases that they focus on is diabetes.
Okay.
And that's kind of a huge thing in the Valley. I think the statistics is about 1 in every 3 people, 1 in every 4
Saw the
people.
tortillas.
You know what?
Yeah.
We need to
No
hook
more
her up
flour
with
tortillas.
Dr. Nina Trejo.
Yeah.
Dr. Nina
Yeah,
Trejo would be
we
a
actually have a
great,
show
great-
on
yeah.
diabetes.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's one of the researchers, I think, at Methodist Hospital.
Where's-
PhD, Nina Trejo over there.
So you want to be
Great
a
person.
PhD in biology, or what's your next step?
So I'm just going to try to get as much of my schooling paid for, because right now I'm a junior because I transferred in a lot of credits from high school, a lot of college credits. And I'm actually going to be graduating next year. But
So you're a sophomore in golf.
But you're like a redshirt
you're a
freshman
junior.
where you could still have
well, I
you still
never
play 4 years, right?
I never read. It's just because during high school I took like AP courses, dual credit, things like
Man,
that.
she's smart.
And,
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so I got a perfect score on my biology AP exam, and so that
Wow.
Great.
Holy
yeah,
smokes.
and that transferred in as 2 semesters of biology and biology lab, so that kind of pushed me up real far up.
Okay.
And actually got I passed both of my English AP exams as well.
That's great.
So you have 4 years. You can play for 4 years, right?
Yeah, I can play. So I have 2 more years after this.
Wow.
But I'll be graduating next year.
So
That's
you're going to
pretty
be
cool.
getting your master's, I'm assuming,
Yeah, I
at
can
TSU?
get my master's. paid
Okay,
for.
and then your PhD?
No,
No?
after that I'll go to med school
Okay.
and then go on that track to become a
okay.
doctor.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. She wants medical school. That's fantastic.
But what if
So-
the golfing takes off? Would you pursue that if?
I mean, if the opportunity is there, I mean, that's a dream. It's a dream.
have you thought about the LPGA?
I actually never thought about it. I didn't even think about coming to college for golf. I didn't think I was that good because, like I said, when I was a freshman in high school, I was shooting like my first few scores were in the hundreds, and then by the end of that year, I had shot 79.
You know, and
So-
she has great arms. She has those golfer's arms.
Yeah,
Those
I work
muscles.
out. I work out a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, my goodness, I bet she got. What do you normally what's your average drive?
My average drive right now, I think 240.
Holy,
Something like that.
240.
Yeah,
I
240.
can't walk 240 yards.
I know you
And
can't.
she, yeah, I'll start helping the pump and have to call the paramedic. But that is fantastic.
Yeah,
That is great.
I've gained a lot of distance this year just because my trainer, the trainer at TSU, he's been helping me out a lot. We work a lot on like core, legs, arms. Flexibility is a big thing as well and balance. So I think that's helped me a lot.
So you
Not
train
bad,
you
not
train
bad,
your
huh? Holy
muscles or
smokes.
whatnot. It's not necessarily golfing exercise. So if you build up, like you say, your core, that helps once you
Yeah.
apply technique. Oh, that's pretty cool.
So
Yes.
usually on a golfer, the long muscles are what really gives her distance. Like you see her arms, how long her arms are. And how tall are you?
I'm sure. I'm like 5'4".
Well, you look taller, but then you're probably wearing high heels.
Yeah.
But you know,
We're like-
that's the kind of
Can you
muscle.
wear high heels on the golf course?
Well, see, that's the kind of muscle that you're looking for. The long. That's what makes Tiger Woods so great. You know, the way his muscles are shaped on him. You know, he just has that golfer's body. So I tell you, my hat's off to you because I know how hard that sport can be. Like I said, I've been playing for over 30 years and I have not improved at all. Not improved at all. But now I only play at tournaments whenever Ben invites me. So yeah.
Is there any professional golfers here that you actually play with on a regular basis from Houston? No?
Not really. I mean, I haven't really met any
No?
professional golfers from
Because I imagine Houston would be like a mecca for professionals in the golf.
Have you talked
I'm just
to-
guessing.
You're
Have
looking
talked
at a
with anybody?
novelist. I could write a novel fantasy where it is, but I have no idea.
Have you talked with anybody with the LA LPGA?
Um,
Have met any other golfers?
I've
lady
met
golfers?
this one. She's an LPGA star now. Her name is Vicky Hurst. In the Valley, they used to host a Futures Tour tournament called the Jalapeno Tournament, and the Futures Tour. Vicky Hurst would play there. She won a tournament, and that's what launched her. And now she's in the LPGA. She's top in the money list, I believe.
Wow.
So I've met her from LPGA. I played in a Pro-Am with Keith Clearwater when I was a junior golfer.
Yeah.
And aside from that, I mean, I've gotten an autograph from Phil Mickelson. that's about it.
Hey, I want her on my next at the next golf tournament. Make her the lady player for it.
I'd rather you
Curious.
become a doctor. That's wonderful. That's awesome. But it's kind of cool if you can get as far as you want to fulfill, your dreams and
Yeah.
pay for
I'm
stuff.
trying to make
in the
some money
meantime.
here, Tony. Don't get her off track here. My goodness.
She's about to discover the cure for diabetes. I know you care about.
It's making $50 on the golf course.
Because she's so good at everything she touches.
You know, I mean that.
I got a feeling when she gets in that medical field, it'll be like
That's
she can
fantastic.
extend our lifespans by like
That's
hundreds of
fantastic,
years.
but she could always pay golf for about 4 or 5 years before she goes to med school.
I'm actually doing research this summer, not necessarily for diabetes, but I got accepted into Rice University's BioNetworks REU program, and it's basically a summer internship, and I'm going to be reprogramming cells to fight diseases and or perform new functions. So
Wow.
That's incredible.
My hat's
Yeah.
off to you, young lady.
Yeah,
That
well, we need to
is
bring
a
you
great,
back
great young
once
lady.
you're a junior and a senior, because I know you're going to have many accomplishments. So I appreciate you coming up. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Senate Bill 1128. Is that correct, Tony?
Bring in the protesters. Yes, we'll talk about it right now on the show.
So we're going to take 2 minutes. We'll be back. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. Now we're going to talk about the controversial Senate Bill 1128. It's a Dan Patrick bill. So Tony Diaz, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, you know, people might remember that about a year ago, the Libertraficantes led a caravan to take the books that were banned in Arizona back to Arizona. We called it the Libertraficante Caravan to smuggle the banned books back. And imagine our surprise when 1 year later, we'd have to defend ethnic studies here in our own backyard. Basically, what this bill does, it will no longer count Mexican American history, African American history, or other ethnic studies for your history requirement the way it counts now in a Texas degree program. And we're not going to stand for our history to be discredited. A couple of my big concerns are that it seems to be a GOP attack on ethnic studies like happened in Arizona, and we're not going to let Texas become Arizona Republican regime like happened out there, led by Jan Brewer and her minions.
So what does this do to programs like the Mexican American Studies program that Dr. Mendiola runs in U of H?
Sure, and here's a couple of things as well. Other people opposed the bill for different reasons, and this was being passed under the radar. So it was submitted the last day of the session, the first day of spring break, and the bill would have just kind of floated through, but because we've had a year of dealing with Arizona and how they prohibited Mexican American studies, the Libertraficantes have become expert at sniffing out the cheap perfume and sulfur of Jan Brewer. And this had Arizona tactics, it reeked of it. So a couple quick things. One, a very vague law. It grants power to the state that it shouldn't have. And then it's kind of a weird way to micromanage colleges. So some people, for example, the San Antonio Express News did an editorial against how it micromanages classes. And what they said, the legislators should stay out of the classrooms, and college students are smart enough to pick their own courses. If they're smart enough to get into college, let them pick their own courses. Another writer, Rick Casey, is against it because he's saying it's going to make history boring. But, for example, what's going to happen is it kicks in on September 1st, 2013. That's the other thing that really unsettles me, is that we don't have time to even think about it. So we want it eliminated. But, for example, if you're taking a course right now in Mexican American history, it counts towards your history requirement. Come September 1st, it doesn't. Now, imagine this. It becomes an elective. So it now has to compete with weightlifting, swimming. You know, students take these courses to de-stress, to look at other things, right? Leisure time. People aren't, if you're going to pit Mexican American studies against swimming,
and
you know.
not say just to learn something.
You know?
Learn something. I mean,
right?
that's fantastic. You know, Tony, it amazes me how the Republican Party and the Tea Party, they just don't learn. They just don't learn. It's the same thing that defeated them in the last election, this same point of view that they have, that they think how they're going to, I don't know what the word is, how to retain the power they have now is to subvert these issues. I mean, they haven't learned a thing.
So is this a Tea Party movement to do this, or is this a Dan Patrick move?
Well, here's what's going on. So, for example, this bill is born under an unlucky star because, of course, even the numbering, SB 1128, it's ironically Arizona House Bill 2811. So ironically, the numbers are flipped. It was submitted actually almost the same day that the Arizona Supreme Court condoned that oppressive law in Arizona. So we've been on high alert anyway. And here's what I'm asking myself. So it's two Republican senators that have submitted identical bills. Capriglione is on the House side with House Bill 1938. So we have two Republican legislators who've submitted this. And this is what I'm asking. There's something called the autopsy report that the Republican Party released that said, you know what, we have to change our ways. And there's lines in there that say that they want to be more sincere, more inclusive. They see things like young people roll their eyes at their programs. And they also talk about how they have to change their stance on immigration because it tarnished their image. Here's a news flash. The GOP-led attack in Arizona tarnished the Republican image as well on ethnic studies. And what they've talked about in immigration, This looks like it's another attack on ethnic studies. So I do ask every conservative representative that I do meet, I need to find out what side they're on. And here's a couple things too. One, there's no room for negotiation. This law has to go. Secondly, perhaps they're not Arizona Republicans. We need to see where they stand. We're going to have a report card on our website, www.notxsb1128.org. We're going to have a report card and see where everybody stands. And we're going to go up and down the list and ask every representative. We just had a big march in San Antonio. We met with Senator Cornyn's office. And our main point is that the report, the autopsy report, says they cannot act like the Republican Party of 30 years ago. Dan Patrick's bill takes them back 30 years. And
now this is kind of interesting because, you know, I went through some classes of the Mexican American Studies, and I found those classes very, very interesting. You know, so them changing it to an elective, I think it's wrong. You know, and I'll be the first one to say that. Now, if this is a Republican or a Tea Party agenda, I'd be very, very curious because, as you know, there's been some laws passed by the Tea Partiers that haven't been so great towards the Latino community. You know, we look at all those immigration laws that they try to pass. You know, immigration reform is coming up. So there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that people are not aware of. So it'd be interesting to see what happens behind the scenes on this case.
You know, Tony, it seems like the more, you know, more things change, the more they stay the same, and, you know, Tiger can't change the stripes. They just don't get it.
And I tell you what, right now we're speculating. We'll have evidence, so we will have a report card on every single representative to see if they stand with us or against us. And here's one thing I will say this. The autopsy report issued by the Republicans points out that they have not won a presidential election in a while. It predicts that they cannot win a presidential election again without the Latino vote. So one thing we're promising, that whichever representative votes for SB 1128, they will lose their next election. And if this does come to light, that it is part of a GOP-led attack on ethnic studies, we promise that there will not be a Republican president in the very near future, and that Mitt Romney will go down as having the most votes ever in recent history. So I really hope it's not. We're speculating. We'll find out.
That's a sad statement.
And I encourage, if there are Texas conservatives against this bill, they need to stand up right now and show where their heart is, because this is not a case of the sleeping giant waking up. Latinos are the working giant, and we're reporting for work to stop SB 1128. Let me add one more thing. People ask me, you think you guys are going to win or not? We have to win. If Texas falls, if ethnic studies falls, in Texas, it will fall across the country. So we need to tell people the buck stops here in Texas. So we're going to save Mexican American studies, African American studies, Asian American studies, women's studies. If it's got to fall on our shoulders, we'll deliver it. We're going to lead another caucus, a rainbow coalition across. We lobbied Dan Patrick's office. We lobbied Cornyn's office. We're going back this week as well. We're going to win this, and people are going to see that we are definitely involved from top to bottom.
Well, coalitions are important. As you know better than I do, if you have the coalition behind you, you have a voice of different ethnicities, and the women vote.
Exactly.
That's very powerful. I mean, the women come out to vote. No question about it. They're over 50% of the vote. You get them behind you, I think you have a good case.
Well, and the other thing I want to add as well is that, you know, we don't have any of our female representatives with us right now, but even at the march that we had, it's Latina. Our movement is Latina-driven, from some of the founders like Laura Costa, Liana Lopez, to the Libre Traficante movements nationwide now. In Milwaukee, Adrienne McClear is one of the leaders of Milwaukee Libre Traficantes. The Bay Area Libre Traficantes, Naomi Quiñones. So no, you're exactly right. And this brings in two things. It's the gender studies and ethnic studies. I want to add another thing. Dan Patrick is basing this attack on a bill. I'm sorry, he's basing the bill on this report by the National Association of Scholars. I want people to remember that name. So this is what I believe. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The problem was created by this survey that says there's a problem with the history curriculum. This group is well known for going after multicultural departments. In 1990, it was pivotal in defunding the Mexican American Studies newspaper at the University of Texas, and they've gone after women's studies programs throughout the state and throughout the U.S. And if you read the report, their main claim is they want to get rid of race, gender, in class from the curriculum. So they criticize books like the life narrative of Frederick Douglass because it's too much about race. How do you not talk about Frederick Douglass without bringing up race? So, you know, they want to create this comprehensive history course.
What about Javier Perez's book?
The unwritten one or the plagiarized one?
The plagiarized
one. The plagiarized one. It's not the Aztec Love God. Did you plagiarize the Aztec Love God?
Great work of literature.
Yeah, a.k.a. Vicente Fernandez.
That's right.
But you know, Tony, what is Dan Patrick's reasoning for bringing? I mean, my goodness, we're just months away from an election where the Republican Party took a dive. You know, they took a dive. You know, and it's changing in Texas. We're not very many years away from this state turning blue.
Well, you know what? He might speed it up because he might speed it up because actually, even when we're in San Antonio, we convene with the National Association of Chicana and Chicano Scholars. So as I was sitting there with the staffers of Cornyn, I pointed out to him, you know what? The autopsy report is talking about the old Republican Party from 30 years back. I hope you don't think you're dealing with the old Latino demographic because as I sit before you with my colleagues lobbying with you, outside I've got presidents from different student organizations marching. About 2 miles away, we had about 800 PhDs, people getting master's degrees in Chicano studies from around the country. Today I was in the LA Times. Guess what? I tweeted and Facebooked about it. I said, you're mistaken if you think that this is the old Latino demographic. We now represent people from the barrio to the boardroom. That's what we have to deal with now. Yeah. And the other thing I'd like to point is we have the Texas caucus from the National Association for Chicano and Chicano Scholars. They came out with a resolution against it. Every school in Texas is now on board. The National Association for Chicano and Chicano Scholars Studies, they also came out with a resolution nationwide. They're writing a letter to Rick Perry. We've only had 2 weeks to roll on this. We've got the whole state mobilized, and we've just started. So, again, I agree with you. Why would anyone want to sabotage the American dream? People, the studies show that our young graduate in fuller rates for this, so it's mind-boggling. I really wish the bill would, I wish he would just take the bill off the table, and if not, more people are going to hear about it. But we're going to win this, so I have no idea what.
Oh, they're going to ride this thing over the end of puro huevo, like they say in Espanol.
Can we say that on the air?
Yeah, I think we can.
Bad. Well, you just did.
You know, there's another bill that I wanted to get your opinion on. It has nothing to do with this. It's
Was this on my notes? This was not on my notes, Ben Mendez.
This is a bill that they're trying to file, or actually they filed. It's going to prevent Cokes from being sold in public schools. What is your opinion on that? And when I say Cokes, I mean Coke products. And so that means anything you can think of that's related to Coca-Cola.
Now, is it just Coca-Cola or
well, Coke products? Coke,
so
just in general,
Pepsi, they'll let
Coke
Pepsi
products.
in.
I mean, anything, Cokes. I mean, they have all kinds of drinks, orange juices, anything with sugar.
Is it just okay? So it's not just Coca-Cola. It's Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, all that.
See,
you're talking about sugar drinks.
What is your opinion on that?
So you're asking the wrong guy, because I'm going to tell you what I really think. So
tell me.
Let's see. We just had a young lady talking about beating diabetes. We have obesity problem in high schools. We've talking about, you know, the Red Bull is even more sugar, so they're charging our kids up with you know, sugar. At the end of the day, I think we need to overhaul the whole diet program and get them healthier food inside out. If they had healthier food throughout, we probably wouldn't be nitpicking little bits and pieces of it. I'm sure this is the tip of the pyramid, and there's more to it than that. But at the end of the day, I don't like micromanaging. Don't get me wrong. But by the same token, if that's going to send a lesson to the businesses to cater more to the health of our young, is that the message? Or maybe there needs to be more ways to make sure that they eat healthy food or learn more about healthy foods.
What's your opinion?
You know what? A couple years ago, I testified before the subcommittee on this, and what my view was, well, I thought it was more of it was parental. I mean, that's up to the parents. That's up to the parents to teach their children to do that. I don't think the government should be getting involved in that. Just like the mayor in New York, making those big gulps, illegal and no longer available, and that was overturned. I think it has to be more, it has to be more parent involvement in that. Like I said, and Republicans always scream about, oh, big government, but now they keep passing this stuff. You know, at some point there has to be some parental involvement. It has to be a personal choice.
Well, but that's different too. Yeah, see, it's different too because in New York you've got the regulation of adults. This is tricky too because at the end of the day you've got a captive audience, and there's this fine line between commercialism. I mean, I wouldn't mind going through the whole system and figuring out what's going on. And who knows? This is interesting. This micromanagement, I'm not sure if this micromanagement is symptomatic of the other approaches as well, because actually micromanaging books, micromanaging drinks, what's going on with this whole bigger movement? I think Ben Mendez will shed light upon this.
Well, you know, I was kind of reading the bill, and there was one thing that really stood out to me. It was saying that the football coaches were not going to be able to give Gatorade to the athletes. So basically, they're going to have to give them water, you know. So I thought it was that was like way too far if you ask me. I believe the same way that Javier believes is that we should have a choice. The Coke products are not allowed in the elementary and junior high, only in the high schools, okay? So by then, the high school students should know what they're going to drink or what they want to drink. That's my opinion.
I tell you what, let's have a Coke and no. But by the way, does this mean the show's sponsored by Coke? Is that what's going on?
Let's have a Coke with something else. With something else in it.
So, any more thoughts on that?
Man, I tell you, I think it goes back to the more things change, the more they stay the same. I see, my goodness, man.
But then it's like Pizza Hut. Is Pizza Hut selling pizzas too? I mean, what's the bigger picture? Because I remember the 6 months that I taught at a high school, they would have food like that you would get from the free lunch, etc., and then they'd have Pizza Hut, and people would just swarm it.
Yeah,
students would just swarm
I think it pretty much is the same thing. I have a son at Reagan High School, and he tells me it's pretty much the same thing. But he said, you know, Dad, if they had like a salad bar, I would go. He would try, but they said they don't do that.
See, that's the tough part. I really do dislike the micromanagement, but I really don't like that our young, especially Latino young, are not learning how to eat correctly. We're predisposed to diabetes, and at the end of the day, it's kind of like, you know, if your family has a certain lifestyle, you'll learn to enjoy sports, etc. If you don't, you won't. So, I guess
beans, rice, and tortillas.
That's right.
That's tough.
Then we wonder why we have diabetes.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. My mom made the best tortillas. You know what? And I went to St. Thomas High School. And I mean, I was like a crack salesman. I like selling crack over there, man. The white kids could not get enough tortillas. I always give them the first one, then charge them $2 the next day. You know, I was making $100 a week on my mom's tacos, man. It was crazy.
Now I tell you what, since you threw a surprise bill at me, I got one for you.
Okay.
What do you think of Bill XXL? No, I don't.
And by the way, for the viewers, in case you don't realize, Tony Diaz has his own radio show. And he's on KPFT, and I forget the number. What's the number?
90.1 FM, which shows you never tune in. Or maybe it's on speed dial. It's automatically programmed. There you go, number one. He's like, hey, Tony, is it number one? 90.1 FM, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay, Tuesdays, 6 p.m., live radio show. And you can call in any time to harass them, talk about the issues at hand, right? What's your next issue?
You know what? You set it up for your good side. So maybe I should just like talk to you like this. Instead of the back of my haircut. So I'm like, Ben Mendez set up all the cameras and lights so he looks fly and the guests don't. See, on radio we don't do that.
Yeah.
On radio we don't do that.
Hey, Jordan, if you're listening, did you catch that?
That's right.
Jordan is he's our producer over there. He's laughing over there.
No, I appreciate the plug. I appreciate the plug by all means. And we're joined in this cause to inform the community. This is what I'm getting at. At the end of the day, it's about dialogue. Even with Dan Patrick, I called him, invited him to be on our radio show.
But what's on tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're continuing to talk about the bills as well. We have a couple new writers and poets that are coming out.
We have a golfer here for you to interview.
You tell me. You're her agent, right? That's the story? You're the agent.
NCAA may be listening. Please don't say that again.
We'll say agente. Representante. If it's in Spanish, it's not in the
Same
rules.
context.
But no, definitely, we'd love to have you on because we're always extolling our young, doing well in different areas to inspire other folks to just think about art differently. And you know what's interesting too? It's kind of like, I mean, that combines all the things. Like, I believe in broad shoulders, broader imaginations. We need to be athletic, we need to be bookish, we need to be active, and all those things combined.
Let's talk about your tour, because I know you took a tour to Arizona. I don't know where else you went, but the pictures that I saw, I mean, you had some crowds. Some people were really hot about the issue at hand. Tell the viewers what the issue was to begin with.
Oh. It's this one, right here. Thank you. And folks can get more information if you go to librotraficante.com, which means book trafficker in English. And I never thought I would have to translate the word book smuggler into English in the United States of America. But when we heard that Arizona had banned Mexican American history, we decided to make more. So with the group that is Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having Their Say, and you've known us, you've been supporting us from the beginning. We're turning 15 this year, but we had the crew that could deliver this, and we said, you know what, if you're going to ban the books, we're going to smuggle them back. So we created a 6-city caravan. The original founders, you know them all. It was myself, Brian Paras, Diana Lopez, Lupe Mendez, and Laura Acosta. Basically, we got books donated from all around the country. We're going to start 4 underground libraries. And, you know, like you're alluding to, I thought we would do this because it's the right thing to do. It was a week-long caravan. I thought we'd come back to Houston and our lives would be the same. We unleashed the Latino literary renaissance. About $20,000 of books were donated. We called them love letters to the youth in Tucson. Because the reason we were inspired is because we heard multimedia accounts of how during class times, Republican regime Arizona officials forced administrators to walk in the classroom and in front of our young, box of books by our most beloved authors. And we said, you know what? We're not going to stand for that. And you're right. Wherever we went, crowds of people came out, outpouring of support.
Well, you had some big names behind you also. I mean, you had some real high-profile writers. You had Oscar de la Hoya. I mean, who gets Oscar de la Hoya behind them on a major issue like that? A boxer, of all people, you know. So, no, hats off to you for getting people like that. Sandra Cisneros?
Correct.
Sandra was very outspoken. And actually, I saw an article written by Sandra. And so, no, that's good.
And Oscar de la Hoya is one of the writers we had hosted during the book fairs previous to this, so we had worked with him through Nuestra Palabra. On the caravan, Sandra Cisneros, we stopped at her house.
Oh, yeah?
She donated books. And so people kind of put this in perspective. The Arizona law, here's the pattern. They scare people. So the Arizona law was created to eliminate courses that prohibited the overthrow of the government. First of all, who worries about that? And secondly, when it was being passed, no one thought, oh, sure, that means Mexican American Studies. No one in the right mind thought that. I want you to think about that and position this now where you have politicians who are saying, no, you're lying about what this bill means. In Arizona, they still deny that there's a ban. So the point is that the people who push these laws, even right now in Arizona, that law went to the state Supreme Court level. And the feds condoned it. It's going to go up to the Supreme Court. But to this moment, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer and her minions still insist that there's not a ban in Tucson. Just like anybody who pushes SB 1128 denies that will eliminate ethnic studies. We've been down this road before.
Yeah. Well, for those of you that are not familiar with the process, if you will, for the Senate bills and the House bills, some of these bills are pretty thick. And some stuff that's in there is not necessarily related to the original bill, because there's a lot of negotiations going on behind the scenes. So someone that is really pushing the bill might have their staffer do the research and actually write the bill. And in reality, that person that's carrying the bill doesn't know everything that's in that bill. So I can believe where somebody might not know that it has certain verbiage, but if it's such high-profile verbiage, I would be the first to look to make sure that it doesn't have it if I'm on the other side, right? And so why that hasn't happened, I don't know.
Well, and what's interesting to me, too, is that similar to Arizona, very vague language. So if you look at the bill, it's actually a short one, very innocuous, but the other patterns are that it micromanages the classroom and it gives a lot of power to the state. And again, we learned from Arizona that once a law is in the books, it's very hard to get off the books. I'm sure once they get to the ninth district in Arizona, whoever wins will appeal to the Supreme Court. Okay, we're depressing people. Let's make people happy.
You know what though, Tony? That's real true, because they say it costs, once a bill is passed into law, to fight it could cost you millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Hundreds of thousands on the low end, and these are pro bono lawyers. Richard Martinez is part of the legal team fighting it, and lives crushed in the process.
And that's why it needs to be killed
fired,
now.
Squashed.
It needs to be squashed
But
quickly.
let's bring people up, okay? Let's inspire them.
Okay.
This is what's going to happen, and this is the American dream in action. We're all part of the political process. We're all part of the American dream. I can't wait till the day that Latina Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor gets to sign the opinion overturning Jan Brewer's Arizona House Bill 2811, because that will prove that democracy is in action and we're a part of it, and we will not tolerate oppression. We will not tolerate encroachments of freedom of speech. And what's beautiful is that it's Latinos at the vanguard saving freedom of speech for everybody, because we're as American as anybody else. That's what's exciting about it.
Absolutely.
You know, I heard there was some discussion about getting rid of the dual language programs in some of the schools. Now, how do you feel about dual language programs, let's just say in the elementaries?
There's a couple. This is a loaded question, and I'm an instructor. I'm probably the best professor ever. But
Absolutely the most modest.
at the least.
The best looking, okay? The best looking.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully you can Photoshop some of this stuff on the fly. Here's my thing. It really offends me when people blame the educational system on one department, because I can go through the whole system, and you know, here's a news flash. There are native English speakers who fail English.
Yeah.
Okay, and if we're going to talk about the state of the curriculum, well, let's look at all the courses, not just bilingual education. And here's the other thing that really bothers me as well. If some folks were to walk through a classroom at a school, right, and they were here, let's say my son is in 3rd grade. Let's say they were here to 3rd graders speaking in French. Mm-hmm. They'd be like, wow, listen to those little kids speaking French. That's beautiful. Same situation as speaking Spanish. Bilingual education is blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know, what's going on with that? It should be trilingual education. Let me brag about my other son, because he's just as modest as me. My older son, he speaks English brilliantly. He speaks Spanish brilliantly. He's learning Turkish.
Wow.
So now he's competing in Turkish poetry festivals and competitions. He's placing. And that's what I want for all our kids. I want them to be learning 3, 4, 5 languages, because studies prove that the more languages you master, the more flexible your brain, you can master higher concepts. So, you know, the conversation, the arguments that are happening in the United States in this educational system, we put people on the moon. We're talking about nitpicking, you know, smaller classes and whatnot. We got to get our act together and take this country to the highest level possible through education, you know?
I agree with you. You know, I went to China, and I was amazed about their educational system. They start these kids off in elementary school, and 3-year-olds. 3-year-olds, they're already going to school. And they learn English. Some of the schools, they teach in English. I didn't even realize that until I got there. So if you can imagine, the Chinese speak better English than us in some cases in elementary school. You know, and so go to your point. We need to learn other languages. There's other languages that we can learn from as well. I mean, you look at Latin. A lot of the Latin words or Spanish words are English words, you know, so it helps in every which way. And it's proven over and over again, people that are in dual language programs have better scores once they get to high school. And so I strongly encourage parents to get their kids in dual language programs.
Well, and this is a great point too. I mean, regarding SB 1128, in a global economy, why would you want to build a border wall around history? It makes no sense. The irony of it is we're in a multicultural, multimedia global society. We actually need to be expanding our vision, not limiting it. So that's a great point.
During, I guess it was like a month ago or a month and a half ago, I was watching some kids at HISD. They were doing the Martin Luther King speech, and they had competitions around HISD. And I don't remember how old the gentleman was, but he was probably 9 years old. and he spoke in front of the board, the HISD board, and he did a fabulous job with his speech. I mean, everybody gave him a standing ovation. Why can't we do that with Latin, if you will? I don't know if you've done it in the past, or maybe you have thoughts about doing, where we have the kids actually compete, because you're into poetry, right? Have them compete, doing it in Spanish.
And you know what's fascinating about that idea? And we don't really do competitions. We have them present their work. But what's interesting too is that could tap into a couple things. I mean, you've got debate clubs, but also the big tradition in our cultures of declamando. So a lot of times when someone is teaching our young, they think, oh, you know, they have no relationship to literature. They've got a different relationship, because I can go back and their parents declaman, which is the idea is that they master the poem, and presenting it is part of the gift and part of the art. That would be huge.
I mean, we have a perfect venue to do that with Talento Bilingüe de Houston. Javier Perez is the director of TBH. They have a stage, you know, they have plenty of room. So I don't see why Nuestra Palabra and TBH couldn't team up and create some kind of competition for the kids. And I'd be happy to promote it on the show on a regular basis and to get the people out there. I think it's important for our kids to do something like that.
Definitely. You know what's fascinating too about Spanish is that I tell people there are just some things you can't translate into English. So for example, would you want to eat 3 milks cake? It's like what, 2% whole milk?
1% whole milk.
It's like, you can't. You got to call it tres leches. It's tres leches and that's that. I've been rereading a lot of books that I read first in English and Spanish, and one of them, we're going to get letters.
That's right.
By Gabriel García Márquez, 100 Years of Solitude. It takes 100 years of solitude to read it because it's long. But in English, I read it. I wasn't too thrilled. When I read it in Spanish, it's mind-blowing. It's just a different relationship to words, different relationship to poetry. Not that one's better or worse, but when you read it in the language it was written from the soul that sent it out, it's powerful. So I think you're right. That would be interesting too, because even students that might not have a relationship right away with writing and literature, once they see that they can be rewarded for their mother tongue, it's going to transfer over.
So do you have a caralibro.com page?
The what? The what?
Cara Libro.
What's that one?
Facebook.com. Do you have a Facebook page?
I believe Doña Ramona's son is very smart, because she says his face is always in a book. So I don't know. Facebook.
Do you have for your followers? You have
yes,
we
do. We've got the Libro Traficante Twitter page at Libro Traficante, the Libro Traficante Facebook page, also Nuestra Palabra. And then Nuestra Palabra is going to be celebrating its 15th anniversary this April. So encourage people to check that out as well. So man, appreciate that.
I remember when you were 21-year-old when you started that group.
I was 15 when I started the group, a child prodigy.
So what are the major events you have planned for your anniversary, your 15th anniversary?
We're going to be doing a big event here in town, over in Baytown. People can find out about that. We're calling it our quinceañera. We're doing the Nuestra Palabra quinceañera. We're going to continue our lobbying efforts throughout Austin. Actually, we just did a huge event in San Antonio, a big protest. We've kind of lined all those up together because this came up. So we do still have that quinceañera planned in Baytown. People can go to the Facebook page to find out about it or listen to the radio show. But a lot of our energies are mobilizing our statewide Libre Traficante movement with all these coalitions. All our energy and attention to say no to SB 1128 and House Bill 1938. I've got a one-track mind, as you can tell. So I'd rather celebrate our birthday by celebrating the defeat of these two bills.
Tell our viewers out there your contact information, how they can reach you, if they have a cell number, email, whatever it is you want to give.
Sure, it's Tony Diaz, el Libre Traficante, and you can visit libretraficante.com. You could call us at 713-867-8943. We're on Twitter, Facebook, or you can tune in up to the minute classic media by listening to the radio show 100,000 watts for 100,000 Libre Traficantes every Tuesday, 90.1 FM, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that really is where we tell people up to date what's going on. So it's the Latino Literary Renaissance.
Well, I will say that I have listened to your radio show, and I've been on the radio actually with you.
We had our lowest ratings ever that day, but that's okay.
Well, what can I say, right? it's because I brought Javier with me.
No,
Actually,
no,
he was
don't
singing.
They
blame-
can't tell
blame it
you're
on
so
me.
good looking.
Don't
You're
blame it
guapo
on
on
me.
TV. They
Yeah,
can tell
he
you're
has-
good looking on TV.
See,
on
Ben
radio.
has the face made for radio.
You know, I bring Javier to one show and he sings, and what happens to the ratings? By the way, Javier sings. In case the viewers don't realize this guy can sing. He has a beautiful voice. I taught him everything he knows.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
There you go. There you go.
We have 2 minutes left. Let's talk about the event that you just had at Talento Bilingüe de Houston. You had an event, I believe it was like a Cuban festival?
It was the Uno, Dos, Tres. It's in collaboration with the Houston Arts Alliance. We had a Talento Bilingüe over the weekend. And the weather was a little iffy, so we ended up moving. It was supposed to be at Guadalupe Plaza, which is right next door. We ended up moving into the theater, and actually it came off real well. It was Cuban son music, which is more of a Cuban folk music. And man, it's not quite like salsa. It's a little different than salsa, but believe it was fantastic. This group, El Rectorado del Son, were fantastic. Wow. These guys were really, really great musicians.
So there's going to be a follow-up. There's a second series and a third series?
Right. There's the next, I believe it's April 23rd, and that's going to be at Mecca, and that's going to be Cuban accordion music, vallenato cubano, Colombiano or something like that, and it's a Cuban accordion music, which they'll have at Mecca, which we're gonna, we'll be there and we'll be helping them with their event, and then the last event will be, I believe it's in May. I'm sorry, I'm not sure about the date, but it's Garifuna.
All right, that's the end of our show. Tony Diaz, thank you for coming out.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Hopefully you can come back and see us. This wraps up Latino Talk TV. We will see you next week, live television, Monday at 6 p.m. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.